Does it sound normal to say that 500,000 tech workers have been laid off in the past 3 years? Well, that's precisely what has happened. Since 2022, 581,961 tech workers have been laid off. In this video, we'll analyze whether your role is at risk of being laid off and review some skills you can learn to stay in demand and make more money in this volatile market. But first, to best prepare you for the lessons in this video, let's analyze the following question. Why have so many tech workers been laid off since 2022? In the past 3 years, companies have been laying off tech workers every other week. Google, Amazon, Microsoft, Meta, Intel, and HP. You name it. Moreover, parts of the insanity is that there is no consensus on what is causing the layoffs. Is it the raised federal interest rates? Are companies broke and want to save money? Is AI taking over knowledge work? Are companies trying to become more efficient? In the past year, I've spent many hours researching the answers to these questions. The experience has been frustrating, confusing, and sometimes just straight enraging. But finally, I've come to what I believe is the most sane conclusion. When it comes to understanding what's causing the large volume of layoffs, it's not just one thing. It's everything. We're not watching a single change factor like raised interest rates, industry-wide austerity, or drives for efficiency. These changes are not occurring in a vacuum. Instead, we're witnessing an entire industry being disrupted by all of these factors combined. Now that we know that the tech industry faces something like an everything problem, we'll check to see if your job is at risk and what we can do to ensure you take advantage of this change and avoid getting crushed by it. The first question we'll answer is the following. Is my current role at risk if tech layoffs keep happening? Who would have believed a tech career could be risky in 2019? Frankly, if I told people that tech was anything but a golden ticket, I would have been laughed at. And for good reason. Back then, software development was the future. The entire industry, including myself, was so convinced of this. In fact, I was so convinced that I spent 22 months learning to code, broke into the field, and within 3 years went from being broke to earning a 6-figure salary without formal technical education. The demand for technologists was sky high in those days. You were paid just for knowing how to code because the skill was rare, which is hard to conceptualize that nowadays. Either way, as time passed, I noticed gradual changes in the industry. As more people learned to code, boot camps exploded in popularity, and offshoring created a global pool of qualified developers willing to work for less. Even so, I didn't worry much at first. The tech market was still roaring. For example, if you got fired with experience in those days, you'd be hired in a few weeks. Everything was on easy mode. That party, however, would not last. The first significant dent in industry confidence came on November 30th, 2022, when ChatGPT was released to the public. Although many programmers initially bashed it, no one could deny what they saw. A machine that could write scripts. Suddenly, the ability to code seemed commoditized. And for the first time in my career, I wondered, will this thing replace me? Then, without a moment to breathe, rising inflation from the pandemic era battered the global economy, and companies became more frugal, slashing jobs left and right. Meanwhile, AI continued marching forward with breakthroughs in natural language and code generation. Innovation was in full swing, even as the broader economy struggled. Okay, so why did I just share this with you? I share all this because today's modern knowledge worker, especially technologists, are now fighting a war on two fronts. The first front is AI, which makes our once rare skills less scarce with every new iteration. The second front is an uncertain economy, perhaps the rockiest since 2008. Accordingly, if you're asking whether your job is at risk, you're not paranoid. I believe you're being prudent. In reality, every job is at risk in some way. We're witnessing what could be called the great displacement of white-collared work. You may hear arguments to the contrary, but I point out the numbers. Is 500,000 jobs lost in tech since 2022 a sign of growth and prosperity for the tech worker? The sooner we accept that this shift is happening, the faster we can adapt and even profit from the changes ahead. Accordingly, and the next point, we'll explore some key skills and actions you can take to stay ahead of the curve and benefit from these changes. Markets seem to shift faster than ever. One moment, companies are hiring in droves. The next, they're slashing jobs. So how do you stay valuable in these unpredictable times? I'll share a short story to get the answer stuck in your head. When I first learned to code, I was furious. I didn't know what a loop was or how to use it. And the frustration nearly got the better of me. Yet, through consistent practice, I began to understand loops and other foundational concepts. But what made it worth it to learn programming, despite all the challenges that I faced? Well, learning was worth it because the market would pay me for having the skill. In short, programming was in demand. Companies needed to solve software problems, so I learned to code. Despite the tech industry's ups and downs, the principle I'm alluding to remains steadfast in both stable and volatile markets. The principle is to find what problems companies need solved and learn the skills to solve those problems. Sounds simple, right? Simple, but very easy to forget. Today, the most significant problems companies pay to solve often involve AI. Many businesses want to integrate or build with AI, but lack enough technologists who can help. The key opportunities, thus, can be found across what Andrew Yang calls the AI stack. For example, you can use your programming skills to integrate AI into an application-based workflow. Or if you're a DevOps guy, you can learn and use the cloud services related to AI model deployment, post-training, or inference. Or you can look at what's popular now. Agentic orchestration, for example, in which you learn to manipulate AI to use tools, perform advanced reasoning or planning, and operate computers. Some of this may sound foreign or strange, but for many of us, for loops once upon a time were foreign and strange too. Ideally, this information orients you toward making yourself bulletproof in this volatile market. There's still one massive problem, however. Learning a skill that pays well doesn't matter if you're losing your life commuting to an office job that you hate. Today, remote workers across the US are being forced back to the office. In this video right here, I explain how corporate leadership ended remote work. I also provide tips on whether returning to the office is viable for you. And finally, I also identify some solutions if you face a return to the office mandate or quote unquote RTO. Please check out the video here. Thank you.